and good afternoon. It is time for our weekly Lunch and Learn with me, Dr. Polly Heil-Mealey at Abundant Health and Wellness. And today I want to continue talking to you about the coronavirus, but I want to talk to you about body mass index and obesity. Now, nobody likes to talk about this because it's not fun to talk about obesity, and everybody's making jokes about the COVID-15, the extra 15 pounds everybody's wearing since the lockdown, and gyms are closed, and you know, people are working from home, so they're snacking more and all that kind of thing. But this is really, really important. I did not know all of this information, and so it's important. So I want to talk to you first about body mass index. What is that? Body mass index is how much, or the percentage of fat that you're wearing. And this is not a fat shaming episode, but this is really, really important to your health. I'm going to give you a lot of statistics, but I want you to understand how you can check what your body mass index is. So you take your height, okay? You take your weight divided by your height squared, okay? And you do it in pounds and inches, and you do it in pounds and inches. Yeah, pounds and inches. You take your weight and you divide it by your height squared. So if you're 5'4", whatever that is, you turn that into all inches, you multiply it by itself because you square it, then you divide your weight by that, and that will give you a percentage. For ladies, okay, well, for everybody really, we want your body weight index to be 18.5 to 24.9. That is healthy body weight or body mass index. That is healthy. Now, if you don't want to do the math, there are all kinds of Google BMI calculators. You can just plug in your statistics. Don't cheat. Weigh yourself on a good scale. Look at your driver's license and find out how high you are and how tall you are. Do that and then do the math, plug it into the calculator and see what your BMI is. A healthy is 18.5 to 24.9. Mine, I'm in the healthy range. Mine is a 23, and I didn't cheat. I did exactly what I weigh and that kind of thing. Now, if you don't want to do the math, then you can look at your waist size, okay? So, men, if your waist size, and that is at the navel, if you measure your circumference at the navel, we want it to be less than 40, okay? So if you wear a size 40, you're overweight. 42, 44, 46, going on up, that's overweight. Ladies, if your waist measurement is greater than 35 inches, you have too high of a body mass index. And so we want to look at that because this is a great predictor of whether or not you're going to fall victim to the COVID virus. And it also predicts whether or not you're going to be helped, and I use that word in quotation marks, by a COVID vaccine. I know a lot of people are waiting for that to come out. I talked to you about statistics last week that I think 44 people had already taken the COVID-19 vaccine, and 33 of them had side effects. So it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but what I did not know is that if you had a high body mass index, vaccines were almost non-effective on you. So I did not know that. I'm not a fan of vaccines. You guys that come in here and you talk to me, you know that how I feel about that. But I did not know that if you were overweight, that vaccines had a hard time protecting you against the virus that you're trying to be protected from. So this is an article. It was in the Epoch Times. I like the Epoch Times. You get really fair and balanced reporting in that. And it's talking about body mass index and the COVID-19 vaccine. It says scientists know that vaccines engineered to protect the public from influenza, hepatitis B, tetanus, and rabies can be less effective in obese adults, right, than in the general population, leaving them more vulnerable to infection and illness. There is little reason to believe that obesity and COVID-19 vaccines would be any different. More than 107 million Americans are obese, and their ability to return safely to work, care for their families, resume daily life could be curtailed if they are relying on a coronavirus vaccine that delivers weak immunity to them. Okay? It says in March, still early in the pandemic, a little noticed study found that heavier patients afflicted with COVID-19 were more likely to die than the leaner ones, suggesting a perilous future awaits for the U.S., whose population is among the heaviest in the world. Now, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'll tell you a funny story. We went to Israel about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Steve and I went, and we stopped over in Greece. We didn't take the whole tour. I worked, he worked. We couldn't go the whole time. But we flew from America to Greece. We stayed in Greece overnight. We saw some of the sights, and then we went on to Tel Aviv the next day. Well, while we're out and about, milling around, my husband looks at me and he says, look at all these people. Of course, everybody is ambulatory, and, you know, there is mass transportation, very little, what we could see anyway in the downtown area. There were not a lot of private cars. It was mostly buses and just a lot of people walking around. And Steve looked at me and goes, look around. And so I'm looking, you know, trying to see what he wants me to see. And I said, what? He goes, there are no heavy people here. I said, what do you mean? He said, look, everybody, there's no heavy people. And I said, well, that's because we're not in America. So if you travel outside of our borders, you will find that there are a lot of people who are much thinner than we Americans are. I remember when I was a young woman, and I looked around and I noticed that everybody who had gotten married and had babies was heavy. And it was like, I don't want to get married and have babies and get heavy. I thought it was like a cause and effect kind of thing. Well, when I got married, we lived in Scotland when we were first married, and I looked around and there were all these mothers with all these children, and nobody was heavy. And it was like, okay, I got to rethink this, because it's obviously not having babies that makes you heavy. It's something else. So we are just used to a heavy population, and this article says that United States has one of the heaviest populations in the world. We need to change that. One of the things that came out at the beginning of this COVID-19 crisis was that people with comorbidities, right, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, COPD, that kind of thing, people that had those were more susceptible to dying of this virus. And I heard a doctor say, and I can't remember which doctor it was. I said it before on one of these programs, but there was a doctor that said America has one of the most sickly populations in the world. And that is not good, especially with all the dollars we spend on healthcare and that kind of thing. So something to think about, because we can control our BMI. We can. We can go on diets. We can do exercising. We can change the way we eat. We can not eat processed foods. There are a lot of things that we can do to change that. And I did not realize, even though I'm not a proponent of vaccines, I did not realize that if you were heavy, vaccines would not work on you, okay? So they found out in the early stages, and this is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, warned that people with a body mass index of 40 or more, known as morbidly obese, this is where you are 100 pounds or more overweight, okay, were among the groups of highest risk in becoming severely ill with COVID-19. Now, this is about 9% of the American population. So it's not really a big percentage, not even 10%, okay? But as they were going through their studies and looking at the data, okay, they revised their thinking and they expanded their warning to include people with a body mass index of 30 or more. Okay, now remember, a healthy BMI is 18.5 to 24.9. So if your BMI is 30 or more, okay, then you are going to be more at risk with this virus and less protected with a vaccine, okay? It says this change in the calculation vastly expanded the ranks of those considered vulnerable to 42.4 of the population. That's a lot of people that are heavy, 42.4%. So what I want you to do is, while you're watching this, I want you to make a note that you want to check what your BMI is. Is your BMI between 18.5 and 24.9? If not, then there are some serious consequences for your health. Now, we've long known that obesity is a contributor factor to cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Now, when we talked about COVID and the comorbidities, what did we talk about? Cardiovascular disease and diabetes. So I know from studying here in the practice, if you are overweight, you are twice as likely to be a diabetic. If you are a diabetic, you're 4 times more likely to get cancer. So that in and of itself should be enough to get us to do what we need to do so that we're able to get our BMI within the ideal range so that we are not subject to diabetes. We're not subject to cardiovascular disease, okay? Scientists in the emerging field of immunometabolism are finding that obesity often interferes with the body's immune response, putting obese people at greater risk of infection from pathogens such as influenza and the novel coronavirus. In the case of influenza, okay, it makes it more difficult to vaccinate adults against the infection. The question is whether this will hold true for COVID-19. Okay, it says a healthy immune system turns inflammation on and off as needed. Now, this is one of the things that we know. We know that chronic disease is inflammation on overload, okay? Inflammation is a good thing. Inflammation tells the body, hey, I've got a pathogen, I need white blood cells, I need a fever, I need something to help me burn up this pathogen, whether it's a germ, a virus, a parasite, food poisoning, whatever it is, okay? So we want inflammation, but we want that inflammation to turn on, deal with the issue, then we want it to turn off. When you have a chronic disease, you are having a slow burn of inflammation that goes unchecked, which makes you more and more susceptible to these diseases. So we don't want that. So hear me, inflammation is good if it will turn on and off. You need it to mount an immune response, but we don't want it to be chronic. When you've got chronic inflammation, then you have sickness and disease, and we don't want that. There is, and I don't understand this, and maybe some of you out there that know more about blood work than I do, there is a blood test, C-reactive protein, which talks about, or it's a measure of inflammatory response in the body. I don't know why that's not standard on every blood test, but I think that it should be, because that tells you where your body is as far as the inflammatory processes go. We do heart rate variability monitoring here in the clinic, and a lot of times it will tell us what the inflammation is. It's not the same thing as the CRP is on your blood work, but it is a measure of the inflammatory response, and we want it to be really, really low. Unless we're sick, then we want it to be high. But most of the time, if you're sick, you're going to stay home and be in bed. You're not going to come and see me anyway. So on a general level, we want your inflammatory processes to be low, okay? So it says obesity is a serious global problem, okay? And the suboptimal vaccine-induced immune response observed in the obese population cannot be ignored. This is research from the Mayo Clinic Vaccine Research Group in 2015, and it was published in the journal Vaccine. That's the name of the journal. Vaccines are also known to be less effective in older adults, which is why those 65 and older receive a supercharged annual influenza vaccine that contains far more flu virus antigens to help juice up their immune response. Well, you know how I feel about that, so I don't really want to go into that too much because I'll get in trouble. I'll get in trouble for my opinion, but that's okay. All right. In 2017, scientists at UNC Chapel Hill provided a critical clue about the limitations of the influenza vaccine. In a paper published in the International Journal of Obesity, they showed obese adults were twice as likely as adults of a healthy weight to develop influenza or flu-like illnesses. So if you want to be protected from this, the easy thing to do is to lose weight. Now, I know you're saying that's not easy. If it was easy, I wouldn't have a BMI problem. And I'm hearing you, and we've got help for you, okay? But what I want you to understand is that knowledge is power. If you understand that body mass index is an indicator of chronic inflammation, if you have chronic inflammation, then you are twice as likely to come down with a sickness and disease. Then to me, that is impetus enough for me to get on that scale every day and see where my weight is so that I can keep it in check, okay? I'm just going to tell you myself, when I wear slacks a lot, and when my slacks start to get that little bit too tight, I reduce my food intake, right? Why do I do that? Because number one, tight pants aren't pretty, and number two, I don't want to go out and buy new pants. But I do know people that I absolutely love and adore, and they get their pants too tight and they just put them in the hamper and they go and buy new pants. And it's like, why are you buying new pants? Well, because my other pants are too tight. Well, no, that's not what you do. You don't go buy new pants. You lose the weight, you get back into those pants, right? So ladies, you want your waist measurement to be under 35. Men, you want your waist measurement to be under 40 inches, okay? That's proper BMI control, all right? So why are obese people twice as likely to get these diseases? It says that one hypothesis is that obesity may trigger a metabolic dysregulation of T cells, which are white blood cells critical to the immune response. It is not insurmountable, says this Dr. Pettit, who is researching COVID-19 in obese patients. We can design better vaccines that might overcome this discrepancy. Historically, people with high BMIs have often been excluded from drug trials because they frequently have related chronic conditions that might mask the results. Okay, clinical trials underway to test the safety and efficacy of the coronavirus vaccine have not, okay, they do not have a BMI exclusion that will include people with obesity, okay? So this is really, really important. We don't want you to be sick, right? I don't want you to be sick. I want you to be healthy. I want you, if you have a weight issue, we do have help here at the clinic. We are a part of a national network of healthy weight loss where you eat your own food. And I know there are people that contact me and they want me to promote different weight loss programs that do microwave food, that do packaged food, and I just can't do that. Now, do these systems work? Yes, they will work short term. They will. But the chemicals, the additives, and all that kind of thing that are in these processed foods will, at some point, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months into the program, you will hit critical mass, no pun intended, where this program's just not going to work for you anymore. Why? Because part of the problem of why you are heavy is because you have too much toxicity in the body. What does that mean? That means you have heavy metals. That means you have environmental synthetic components that the body doesn't know what to do with. And so it just stores them in our fat cells. That's why our fat cells get bigger and bigger, and why we have an issue with that, because we are actually storing these components instead of getting rid of them. So what I want to do, and this is what we have in the clinic that we offer this this program. I think it's backwards, but it's called the Shape Reclaimed, and you can Google that. It is a national program. It's been around for 10 years. It's very, very good. It's very healthy. I can absolutely buy into this because it's one supplement, just one. But what it does is it curbs inflammation. It is a cellular detox. It helps the body process what you're wearing. And so as you move forward on this program, then you're going to be able to lose that weight in a healthy way. You're going to change your eating. I know I said a bad word. We don't want to change our eating, right? We want to eat what we want to eat. And I'm there. You know, when I want a Whataburger, I go and get one. I don't get one every day. I probably don't get one every week, okay? Why is that? Because it's processed food. I don't like to eat processed food. I want to eat food that I have cooked myself, so I know what's in it. I know that it's come from a good source. I know that it's non-GMO. I know that it is organic in most cases. And so I know that there's no level of toxicity. You know, when you do commercial dairy, when you do commercial beef and chicken, all of those products are full of antibiotics and hormones, right? They're synthetic hormones. What happens to synthetic hormones? Well, they are xenoestrogens. You cannot process them, and so your body pulls them into your fat tissue and you wear them, all right? And so what we want to do is get you to the place where you can change what you're eating. And this is a real simple program. I'm not going to say it's an easy program, but it's simple. Why is it simple? Well, you can see that I've got two little flags here. And this is the new book. So if you've done this program and you're watching this video and you say, my book doesn't look like that. No, your book doesn't look like this because they just came out with this particular book. But if you are wanting to do this, this is your food list, right? You've got 2 pages and you can only eat from these approved foods. And if you will eat from these approved foods, you will lose the weight, all right? It's heavy prep. I will give you that. If you're not used to cooking, if you're used to doing the drive-through all the time, if you're used to buying prepackaged things and not doing a lot of prep, then this is going to be a little bit more difficult for you because it is a lot of prep. However, the taste is good. It's worth it. It is sustainable. And, you know, when you get into that proper BMI range, you feel better. Why do you feel better? Because you have calmed down that inflammation. Inflammation is hot. Inflammation is irritating. When you, if you even get a common cold, how many of you get a common cold from time to time? Well, you have a headache, you've got a runny nose, you've got a sore throat. This is the body mounting an immune response so you take care of the pathogen. Does it feel good? No, it does not feel good. And so when you get that inflammation on the downward slide there, you're going to feel better. Your attitude is going to be better. You're not going to have anxiety. You're not going to have all the kind of things that you have when you've got this inflammatory response. You're going to be healthier at a cellular level. And so whenever you do come in contact with the viruses, and we come in contact with this all the time, okay? Every time I open my door, people come in, they're sick, okay? We exchange breath, we exchange air around us, okay? So this is all gonna be good. It's all gonna be good. It strengthens your immune system, so that's okay. Now, somebody just asked, what's the name of the program? It is called Shape Reclaimed, okay? Now, you can find this on the internet. You have to go to a practitioner. You can't just do this. You can't buy the book and do this. It is doctor recommended. I actually know the doctor that developed this. I work with him. I also know the manufacturer, okay, that makes the product. I don't have the product on my desk, but it's a little 2-ounce liquid. It'll last you a month. And it's not very expensive. And so I'm just going to say, this is something that everybody can do. If you're concerned about your health, if you're concerned about your body weight index, if you're concerned about a second wave of COVID-19, if you're concerned about the flu, we've got help for you. But one of the most, I don't want to say easy because it's not easy, but it's simple. One of the most simple things that you can do is to get your weight down so that your immune system responds properly to these pathogens, okay? You will strengthen your immune system, and really at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to keep any of us well, is a strong immune system. If I am well, and I am well, whenever a germ comes into my field, I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm just not quite 100% today. I will set the clock on my phone every 2 hours, and I will take a natural antibiotic. I will take a natural antiviral. By the end of the day, I am myself. I've not missed work. I've not missed my kids. I've not missed anything. Because, why? Because my immune system rises to the occasion, because I'm healthy. If you're not healthy, if you're overweight, then you're not going to be able to do that. And I do these programs because I'm giving you information. I'm helping you to take care of yourself, because that's really what it's all about. You should be able to go to your kitchen cabinet, pull out your antiviral, pull out your antibiotic, your natural antibiotics, set your phone every 2 hours, and by the end of the day, you're just as right as rain, okay? So, love you guys. It's the weekend. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. If you want to do this program with me, you're very, very welcome to do that. There are some guidelines. You can look on the Shape Reclaimed website. I think it's called shapereclaimed.com. You can look at that. There's tons of information out there. We are a provider. I don't know who else in town is a provider, but this is a national program, and it's great. I've used it. We have tons of people that have used it, and it's very, very sustainable. So be good to yourself. Do your BMI. If you've got an issue, let me know. We can help you, okay? Even when you've had other things that have failed, we can still help you, okay? Take care. Protect yourself. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.